Music can take us to some otherworldly places. There's a longing, a sense of yearning in how these chords move. When we use inversions, we can line up chord voicings to evoke different feelings in the music. In this video, we're going to look at how chords are built and how you can use inversions to bring a whole new dimension to your songwriting. When we first learn to play guitar, most of us learn open chords like G, D, E, and A minor. Open chords are great. They ring out with a bunch of open strings, but a lot of the notes on these chords are repeated. When we play an open E chord, the note E is repeated 3 times. But at its core, an E major chord has 3 notes: E, G sharp, and B. And when we play an open A minor chord, the note A is repeated 2 times. But an A minor chord has 3 basic notes: A, C, and E. We call these 3 notes a triad, and each triad has a root, a third, and a fifth. If you know the root, the third, and the fifth of any chord, you can play that chord all over the fretboard. Let's take a C chord. C is the root, E is the third, and G is the fifth. We can play these notes in any order. We can play them here on the bottom 3 strings like this with G in the bass, like this with C in the bass, like this with E in the bass. You can play it on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th strings here with C in the bass, here with E in the bass, or here with G in the bass. When I say in the bass, I simply mean the lowest note of any chord we're playing. That's the bass note. On the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th strings, we can play it here with E in the bass. We play it here with G in the bass. We play it here with C in the bass. On the top 3 strings, we could play it here. We could play it here. We could play it here. And on the 6th, 4th, and 3rd strings, we could play it here like this with G in the bass, here, C in the bass, or here with E in the bass. So I just played a C major triad in 15 different ways, but it's still just 3 notes: C, E, and G. So what's the deal with the root, the third, and the fifth? And how do these notes relate to each other? The root is the identity of the chord. If I play an E chord like this, like this, like this, like this, like this, like this, it's still an E chord, and the root is E every time. The root does not change. Root position is when the bass note of the chord is the same as the root of the chord. An E chord with E in the bass, or a C chord with C in the bass. An inversion is when the bass note of the chord is different from the root. A C chord with an E in the bass, or a C chord with a G in the bass. Once you learn inversions, the possibilities on the guitar really open up. Now that whole thing I just played was based on just 2 chords, F and E flat. But in order to really understand what's going on here, we need to talk about intervals. So what is an interval? An interval is the distance between 2 notes. We count intervals based on both letters and half steps. So we have these 7 notes that are signified by letters: C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then C, the 8th note, higher up, where we start counting these notes by the same letters again, at what we call the octave. So we have C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Now that's if we count the notes by letters. We can also count the notes by half steps. With half steps, we count 12 notes that start over at the octave. C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A, B flat, B, C. You can really see this clearly if you look at the open strings. So we have a note on an open string, like E, and then if you go up to the 12th fret, you can see there's two dots. This signifies the octave. So there's an E down here on the open string E, and then at the 12th fret, there's also an E. So the notes go all the way up, and then they start counting over again. We start counting them over again in a higher register on the 12th fret. So all the strings actually work that way. We have the 6th string open E, the 12th fret E. For the 5th string we have A. For the 4th string we have D, and the 12th fret we have D. The 3rd string we have G, and the 12th fret we have G. The 2nd string we have B, and the 12th fret we have B. The 1st string we have E, and the 12th fret we have E. So I talked about a root, a third, and a fifth. The third and the fifth are intervals. First, we count the letters. Each letter counts as 1, and this gives us the basic number of the interval. So if I go from C to D to E, the number would be 3, and we know our interval is some type of third. Then we count the half steps. This tells us the quality of the interval: major third, minor third. If I look at the half steps, I count C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E. There are 4 half steps between C and E. We call 4 half steps a major third. Major chords have major thirds. A C major has a major third of E. C, E, G. Let's look at C minor. A C minor has the notes C, E flat, G. Now if we count the letters from C to E flat, we count 3. C, D, E flat. So we know it is some type of third. However, if we count the half steps, we count C, C sharp, D, E flat. There are 3 half steps between C and E flat. We call 3 half steps a minor third. Minor chords have minor thirds. First we count the letters, then we count the half steps. So the difference between a C major triad and a C minor triad is just one note, E and E flat. But man, what a difference. Listen here while I alternate C major and C minor and throw in some inversions and colors. There's a whole world in that chord change, and all kinds of feelings that come up when I hear this. Like I'm weightless in space, or I'm in a dream state. There are a couple other triads I just want to breeze through with some quick examples just to show you they're out there. An augmented triad is a major triad with the 5th raised 1 half step. So if you have a C major, we have C, E, G. But with C augmented, we'd have C, E, G sharp. So that's a pretty dissonant sound. But listen to this example in context. So here we have an A, moving to an A augmented, moving to an F sharp minor, moving back down to an A augmented, back down to an A. So the augmented there serves as sort of a bridge between these two chords. And then we have diminished triads. Diminished triad is a minor triad with the fifth lowered 1/2 step. So with C minor, you have C, E flat, G. But with C diminished, we'd have C, E flat, G flat. Again, kind of dissonant. But listen to how these diminished chords resolve to major or minor. So that's F sharp diminished to G. Let's do the same thing, but we're going to resolve to E minor. So augmented and diminished chords are very effective in creating tension and release. Let's play some triads. So our C major scale is C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. That's if we play it one note at a time. But we're going to play it 3 notes at a time with triads. Each time we'll start with our C major triad and we'll work our way up the fretboard. 3rd, 4th, and 5th strings, root in the bass. 2nd, 3rd, and 4th strings, 3rd in the bass, E. Bottom 3 strings, 5th in the bass. Okay, so what's going on here? On one level, we're just playing a scale with 3 notes at a time. So we start with C major, C, E, G. C is the root, E is the 3rd, and G is the 5th. Then we move up these notes to the next note in the C major scale. From C, E, G, we move up to D, F, A. Now, D is the root, F is the 3rd, and A is the 5th. So we keep going up the fretboard this way, and we end up with a series of different triads, all within the major scale. We have C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished, and C major. These are called diatonic triads, and each of these chords can be inverted, played with the root in the bass, the 3rd in the bass, or the 5th in the bass. C major, D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor, B diminished, C major. However, you also have a C on 2nd, 3rd, and 4th strings over here. This has the G in the bass, that's the 5th in the bass. C, D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor, B diminished, C. Okay, and finally, we have a C up here. This has the root in the bass. So this exercise will take you all over the fretboard. This did unbelievable things to my playing. So we talked about the root, the 3rd, the 5th, all these chords. But how do you learn the notes on the fretboard? Here's some food for thought based on what we've gone over in this video. So we have our open strings, right? E, A, D, G, B, E. We have our octaves on the 12th fret, also E, A, D, G, B, E. Next, learn the octaves of C on the fretboard. What I like about this is it helps you find a C anywhere on the fretboard. Next, there's basically 7 letters that we're talking about, right? C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then C, the octave there. So, the exercise is to find these 7 letters on each of the 6 strings going up the string to the 12th fret. So sixth string, you have E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. Fifth string, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Fourth string, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. Third string, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Second string, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. And first string, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. Next, do this over a C chord, or play a C chord and play a fragment of it, like this. And you may find you get song ideas while you do this. Once you do this with one note, you can try it with two. So take two adjacent strings. You can do this on other strings, of course. You can move on to three strings, where we get our triads. The bottom three strings, we have a C here, G, C, E. We have a C here, C, E, G. We have a C here. We have E, G, C. And so on for the other sets of strings. So that'll get you all over the fretboard. You can try doing this in A minor. Here we have an A minor, A, C, E, on the bottom three strings. And we have here, we have another A minor. Here we have a C in the bass, that's an inversion, right? An A minor with the C in the bass, that's the third, A, C, E, right? So you have C, E, A here. And then up here, you have E, A, C. And so on here. I go to the next set of strings, and the next set of strings. Once you understand how chords are built, it's just going to do wonders for the way you think about playing and writing. Now we covered a lot of stuff in this video, but this is only the beginning. In part 2 of this video, I'm going to cover 7th chords and 7th chord inversions, or at least we'll touch on them. And then we're going to look at a whole bunch of examples so you can hear the stuff in context, give you ideas, you can use them in your own songs. And I'm really excited to share this with you because it just did unbelievable things to my playing.